coach Greg Popovich will no longer be head coach of the San Antonio Spurs and is transitioning full-time to team president. Popovich suffered a mild stroke November 2nd and did not return during the season. Now, Coach Pop released a statement today saying, "While my love and passion for the game remain, I've decided it's time to step away as head coach. I'm forever grateful to the wonderful players, coaches, staff, and fans who allowed me to serve them as the coach. And I'm excited for the opportunity to continue supporting the organization, community, and city that are so meaningful to me." Coach Pop's career on the sideline was legendary, so we go on the bonus on his tenure. Greg Popovich is the NBA's all-time leader in wins as a coach. Pop passed his former colleague Don Nelson for the honor March 2022. He was also a force for the Spurs dynasty at the top, winning 5 titles as head coach. That is tied for the 3rd most by any coach in NBA history. Only Phil Jackson and Red Auerbach have more. And he was a hallmark of excellence, winning 50 games in 18 straight seasons. That is the longest streak in NBA history by any coach ever. Perk, when you think about the news in which Coach Pop transitions to now solely being the president of San Antonio Spurs, what comes to mind?
Well, the first thing comes to mind is good for Pop and good for the Spurs, right? It's time, right? It's time. Pop has done everything that he's supposed to do. He's a senior citizen. It's time for him not, but he gets to stay around the game. And also, when you think about this, right? Greg Popovich is one of the greatest, if not the greatest coaches ever, right? But he's also one of the best trendsetters ever, right? When you talk about culture, their culture don't get talked about enough. I think they're one of the most underrated organizations that in the history of sports because of how they did it, right? Not cheating the system. Majority of their guys came through the draft. And when you look at all the people that came from under that culture, that fell from that tree, their resume is longer than the CVS receipt.
Yeah, let's dive into this coaching tree. You said it pretty eloquently on our pre-show call, saying it's not a tree, it's the leaves that are now branching out. Steve Kerr, currently in the playoffs, one of the greatest that we have seen recently. Ime Udoka, which we know what he's doing currently with the Rockets. I love the inclusion of Becky Hammon as well. I mean, the game is in a better place because of how he approached the game overall, especially as a coach. Now we'd like to welcome in our NBA insider, Shams Charania. Shams, how did Pop get to this decision?
As much as Greg Popovich wanted to continue on as an NBA head coach, I'm told he came to the conclusion that it would just be too taxing of a grind to continue to be an NBA head coach, especially after that November health scare that he had with the stroke. And on a human level, he is doing much better. He's feeling much better, but there's a much there's a bigger difference between being a human being living day to day versus being a head coach in the NBA and the grind, the burden, the stress that comes with it. And he made the decision after pushing to return initially, and he started to make calls to former players, current players over the last 24 hours, letting them know. And this is an end of an era because 29 years, 5 NBA championships, the all-time winningest coach ever. But it is the start of another era for the Spurs. He is more prevalent over the last week or so. I'm told he has been coming into the facility, and he will continue on as team president of basketball operations. But definitely a massive change in the NBA without Greg Popovich on the sidelines ever again.
And Shams, you also broke the news on Mitch Johnson taking over as head coach. I followed Mitch Johnson's coaching career very closely. Stanford grads, of course. What gave the Spurs the confidence to make their current interim coach more official?
A big word, continuity. And that's something from Greg Popovich, their CEO, R.C. Buford, to the general manager, Brian Wright, who actually came in to the Spurs organization with Mitch Johnson in 2016. So over the last decade, the Spurs have evaluated Mitch Johnson, have seen the growth that he's had, and there's tremendous support for Mitch Johnson in that Spurs organization, not only this year as an interim head coach, but over these 10 years. And as we saw in the video right there, he's actually been Victor Wembanyama's shooting coach over his 2 seasons in the NBA. So he is now ushering in this new era of Spurs basketball where that relationship between Victor Wembanyama and Mitch Johnson will be very key.
Yeah, the game and also the Spurs are in great hands. Thank you so much, Shams, for stopping by. Now, Coach Pop transitioning to solely being the team president of basketball ops is today's headline. Yesterday, it was actually someone else. It was this guy, Captain Clutch. Is that what we should call him, Perk?
Nah, Big Body Brunson. You
all
know
the
his
above.
Name.
He just bodied the Pistons in an all-time series-ending performance. Let's go to the highlight. Under 2 left in the fourth. Knicks down 4. This move caught your eye, Perk.
It did, and right then was the defining moment that I said watching this game that Jalen Brunson, if they were going to go down, it was going to go down with him swinging. He was not going to pass the ball. He was trusting himself in that moment.
Yeah, and he also has the trust of his teammates because after targeting switches and screens, he takes the jumper, misses, but this was a huge tip-in by Mikal Bridges.
I mean, that's what Mikal Bridges does. I love when he attacked the offensive glass. I love when he's doing the other things and not worrying about actually trying to be a ball handler in the score.
So the game tied at 113. This is the matchup that both sides wanted. Keep in mind, Brunson had only shot 30% against Asar Thompson up until this point in the series. There comes a little bit of a slip screen, and boom, the skate's wrong.
And Big Body Brunson again. He's very
Brunson burner, great call.
He's comfortable on the road.
Here's what it sounded on ESPN Radio with a familiar voice.
Brunson between the legs dribble, gets rid of Thompson, walk-up three-pointer. He got it! The clutch player of the year will not be denied.
He is accountable, he is present, and he does not shy away from the moment.
A straight bar from Monica McNutt, our teammate. Check out the Knicks bench reacting. They were going bonkers after the Brunson 3. Now, that meant still, Perk, that the Pistons would still have a chance. So they send the whole team at Cade, and it just slips out of Beasley's hands.
I mean, I would have done the same thing, but look, it was ugly. Listen, but one thing we got to give credit to the Detroit Pistons. Hell of a season.
Yeah, here was Brunson after the game-winning shot.
I don't really go and think, all right, I'm going to make this move right here. It was just an instinct. He beat me to the spot. He cut me off. I just went back the other way, and I found a lot of space, and I was able to take a shot.
What can you say? You know, timely, you know, he's at his best when his best is needed. He's done it all year. That's what makes him special.
Knicks fans were going crazy at the watch party in Madison Square Garden. Perk, we got to pull up at some point, right?
I'm pulling up. Even if I gotta skip work, I'm going to a game.
First of all, we know you never skip in work, okay? What a game, what a city, what a reaction. And if you're a Detroit Pistons fan, let's just say stay off of social media because it was flooded with Brunson content. I mean, Stephen A., Stephon Marbury, Magic Johnson, so many giving love to JB. But Perk, this game could have turned out very differently. So take a look at this graphic right here. The Knicks are black and the Pistons are blue. With 2:35 left in the fourth quarter, the Pistons had a 93% chance to win the game, which means that the Knicks, and you can see that right here, obviously had a 7% chance to win. Now enter in the 2025 Clutch Player of the Year. JB ended Detroit's hopes with a Game 7 to obviously with that iconic shot. So let's break it down, Perk, this final possession. So I've got the controls here. I know you spied something early on.
Well, look, this was a brawl for it all type series. This was a brawl for it all type matchup. And I want you to freeze it right here. Okay. Asar Thompson, right? One of the best defenders in the league. A guy that has the length, the athleticism, who has been was a thorn in Brunson's side the entire series. This is what you call being on the island by yourself. Now, I got to respect this young man. In this moment, not looking for help, pressuring up on the ball, not afraid of embarrassment. Not afraid of embarrassment. He accepted the challenge. Now that he accepted the challenge, Shanae, go ahead.
But what I love right here is that they're going to get a little bit of a slip screen, and Brunson wants to go to his left. And this moment, this possession, the probably greatest of Brunson's career so far, it really showed the team chemistry. Because watch this. It's almost like they said, we're going to high five. You see that action in the middle. We're going to high five to create some confusion. And that's all that was needed to create that necessary momentum to get Asar on some skates. Boom, the push off. And then that's all she wrote. The huge dagger three. I mean, when you look at the move, That's advanced. What does that remind you of? The park
That
growing up?
remind me of those videos that were circulating on social media when he was a young pup with his dad at the park working on those 1-2 dribble pull-ups. It paid off on the road. 40-piece wing dinner, all flats, habanero style is what he gave.
And Perk, it wasn't just by the eye test. Jalen Brunson won Clutch Player of the Year, and it lived up to that honor, especially in the first round. Brunson leads all players in the playoffs in clutch scoring this year, and that showed up when it mattered most. We like to welcome in Brian Windhorst right now to the conversation because, Wendy, this series was tight. It was actually the second series all time to feature 4 straight games decided by 3 or fewer points in NBA postseason history. Before we look ahead, what did this series tell you about the New York Knicks?
Well, first off, the road team won 5 of the 6 games in this series, which is not something you see every day. But I think what's really interesting about this is there's people who have questioned some of J.B. Bickerstaff's decisions down the stretch here. Like, for example, why didn't he double-team Jalen Brunson? Why didn't he force the ball out of the clutch player's hands? Here's the one thing you need to realize. Ausar Thompson had forced Jalen Brunson into 5 consecutive misses when he was guarding him. They believed in him. They believed that they didn't need to bring help. It would have created a potential open shot where he would have passed out of it in a tie game. And so they really trusted Ausar Thompson. He defended this relatively smartly because you know Jalen Brunson is so good at drawing fouls. Had he gotten the corner turn going left, where he's one of the best left drivers in the game because he's left-handed, he probably could have drawn a foul. Ausar Thompson blocked the drive, but he didn't count on one of the greatest pivots we've ever seen. So I would actually say that they did a good job on Brunson in the fourth quarter of this game. It's hard to see that because all we see is the last shot, but Ausar Thompson did a great job. If you're going to question anything, it's that earlier in the fourth quarter, J.B. Bickerstaff took Ausar out, I think for offense-defense reasons, put Dennis Schroeder on Brunson, and he made a couple of baskets which helped the comeback. There was so many things that was happening here, and at the end of the day, the Knicks got through by the skin of their teeth, and that's really going to be important going forward because, you know, they're going to have a much harder road against the Celtics.
And speaking of that road, Perk, this is like a battle of your favorite teams. The Knicks and Big Body Brunson, we always call you the mayor of New York, and your Boston Celtics.
Governor.
Oh, you're the governor?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
governor.
Excuse me.
But you're good, though.
But the fact is the Celtics have taken all 4 of these matchups, winning by a margin of, what, like 16 points. What are you looking forward to, especially when it's X's and O's in this next one?
Well, one, I think, let me say this. The Celtics are vulnerable right now because of the injuries, right? We don't know what's going on with Jrue Holiday. Obviously, he's not healthy. Jason Tatum dealing with the wrist injury, but he's still balling. And then you have Jaylen Brown dealing with the knee issue. Perfect opportunity for the New York Knicks. We know what Jalen Brunson, Big Body Brunson, is going to bring to the table. The Knicks have a legit shot of going out there and beating the Boston Celtics if Karl Anthony Towns decide to stand on business. Because what I just saw in this last series, that ain't going to cut the mustard. That's not going to cut it. You cannot be inconsistent like this. In the wins in this series, 22 points, 10 rebounds. In the losses, 13 points, 8.5 rebounds. Now, you know who was guarding him majority of the time? A smaller Tobias Harris. If Cat could go out there and give you 25, just give the Knicks your season average this year. What was it, about 25 points and 12 rebounds?
Yeah.
Then the Knicks are going to put themselves in position to be successful. I strongly believe that he's the most important piece and most important player in this series. He should go out there and he should want to dominate against Kristaps Porzingis. If he could do that, I think the Knicks pull it off.
I agree, because it's kind of like the Spider-Man. You gonna do it with me? Like the Spider-Man meme, right? I'm the best shooting big man. No, you're the best shooting big man. Porzingis versus Karl Anthony Towns. And by the way, the Celtics swept the Knicks in the season series, and the odds makers are taking notice. Boston is a massive favorite over the Knicks in the second round and have the second shortest odds by a top 3 team entering the second round since the Clippers in 2020 against the Nuggets. Man, we're just getting started. Still to come, Game 7.
Game 2, I think this is, if someone loves basketball, I think this is the series to watch, or Even today, I think it was an amazing basketball game. You can see one team is going down, then Lillard runs, and then the Stars playing on their level. I think it's if you like basketball and like a really true fan of basketball, not like fame basketball, like really like details stuff, I think this is the games that you should watch.
We love comeback stories for players, for teams. I mean, the OG hoop heads, Kawhi, James Harden, Murray, and Jokic have played in a combined 22 Game 7. So this Game 7 might be one of them ones, as the kids would say. Wendy, there are so many storylines in this Game 7. What are you watching the closest?
Chene, you could produce a mini-series on this series right now. If you look at all the things that are going on, first off, the Nuggets are going home. They lost Game 7 at home last year, a devastating second half in Game 7 to the Timberwolves. They've got to atone for that. You've got Nikola Jokic trying to atone for, frankly, 2 games for his level that were a little bit subpar, especially this last home game, just 4 of 13. You've got Russell Westbrook going against his former team, the team that let him go in the last year. You've got, Jamal Murray coming back trying to have another great game. Then you look at the Clippers. Obviously, you've got Kawhi Leonard trying to make a statement here as he's able to finish a first-round series for the first time in years. And then, of course, James Harden trying to prove that he can win a key Game 7. He's 2-3 in his career in Game 7s. He has not performed great in elimination games. He did have a very good game last night, but he's got a lot to atone for in his past, and he could change the narrative really on this part of his career with a huge road performance in this one. So fascinating, and the winner of this series probably feels like they're going to have a swinging chance against Oklahoma City. So much to watch coming into this game tomorrow night.
Wendy, you're clearly in the demographic that Jokic was talking about, real hoop heads that love basketball, love this series. Yeah. But you mentioned one word, I guess, when you were talking about James Harden, the idea of trust. We may not trust him in an elimination game, but Perk, who do you trust more in this series, the Clippers or the Nuggets?
Well, first of all, ma'am, I actually picked this series to go 7.
Okay, congratulations.
And I picked the Clippers to win in 7, and I'm standing on that. And here's why. One, because of Kawhi Leonard Jordan. I trust him. He's healthy. He's the best player in this series. I mean, it is what it is. We could debate Jokic and him another day. But I'm going with the guy that I voted for as most improved player. I'm going for the guy that got a third-place vote out of me for Defensive Player of the Year, Big Zubac. Putting in that work. In the past 3 years, I've never seen someone guard Jokic the way he has one-on-one individually. I'm not saying he's locking them up, but damn it, the way that he's able to contain him, we're not really witnessing a dominant Jokic-type series, right? Like, he's going to get those triple-doubles, but I thought yesterday, late in the fourth quarter, time and time again, Big Zubac held it down on his own, no help. I got it. I got this. And with Ty Lue up and down that sideline going against a rookie head coach in the Game 7, you think Ty Lue pulled Nick's platoon out of his sleeve. He got something else coming.
So the Nuggets are the favorites, but you're standing with the Clippers. Our producer, Demetrius, who's the biggest Clippers fan, is also rocking with his squad.
I wouldn't call him a fan. A fan is when you stay true, when y'all up and y'all down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
He ain't really, you know what I mean?
Shots fired. He's here. He can hear you. By the way, producer Demetrius, they have only won your Clippers a Game 7 on the road one time back in 2012 against the Grizzlies. So that's Game 7.
He was all scared after.
He's always scared forever. But how about Game 6s, though? Coming up, the Warriors starters got sent back to the bench during that.
I want to play 39, but I don't have that problem because of you guys.
The San Antonio Spurs are your world champion.
I tried to think of a word that would describe what this might feel like, and it feels even shush.
1,336 regular season victories.
I have absolutely no clue what you're getting at or what your question means, so I'll just pass on it.
Popovich will forever go down as one of the best to ever do it. So let's check out the top of the top, brought to you by Nintendo Switch 2, Pop's best moments. Starting December 14th, 96, Greg Popovich captured his first win as head coach for the San Antonio Spurs in a thriller versus the Mavs. Perk, I mean,
you
remember this moment with Avery Johnson?
I don't remember it, but let me say this. When you make top of the top as a head coach, damn it, you did some stuff.
The ultimate flex. Up next is the 99 NBA Finals. Pop and the Spurs eliminated the Knicks in 5 games to win their first NBA championship in franchise history. Shake it. Fast forward 15 years later, emotions overwhelming Pop and the Spurs as they eliminated LeBron James and the Heatles to capture their 5th NBA title. And of course, the legend had to remind them that he had like 5 of them things? Them 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was beautiful. And of course, Popovich's national team career culminated as the head coach of the 2020 U.S. Olympic team that went on to win gold in Tokyo. Afterwards, he described the experience as the most responsibility I've ever felt. Strong words for a career as successful as he is. And in 2022, Greg Popovich passed Don Nelson as the winningest coach in the history of the NBA with 1,336 career wins, all with the Spurs, cementing his legacy, especially with his career, simply one of the best to ever hold that title. I mean, what an incredible collection of moments. For more on Coach Pop, Perk, stop it. We welcome in our brother, Richard Jefferson, who obviously played.
First of all, as a man, as a leader, that's who he is. That's what was so impressive about him, his approach to the game. He would get in there and we would have film sessions and he was like, yeah, we're down 1-0. That's not a problem. You know what's a problem? A problem is these individuals that are fighting for their food, these individuals that are living in war-torn countries. He had an ability to, even when you were under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure, you still felt blessed to be in the position of what you were doing. That's from like a personal side. From a player side, Greg Popovich helped transition my career into career. So I'm forever grateful for him, for his teaching, for his ability to just put you in a position to be successful within the system that they were working in. That's Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is a military man in San Antonio. The amount of things we went to, we would go to the different military hospitals. There were so many things that this man was always trying to imprint on his players. It wasn't a perspective. It wasn't a this is what you think. It goes, here's something to think about. And Greg Popovich, outside of Lute Olson, probably was the most impactful coach that I had over my 20 plus years of playing basketball.
And you bring up a really important point, Richard. You know, Greg Popovich obviously attended Air Force and served in the Air Force, and it allowed him a perspective that made us look at us, not as players, but as people. And I will miss that, especially when it comes to press conferences. I want to welcome Brian back here because looking ahead, as Sham said earlier, Mitch Johnson will now take over as the head coach. How do you think the Spurs, Brian, are positioning themselves for the future?
Brilliantly. One of the things Greg Popovich has done as coach, not only win, but he helped establish a culture, and that culture has carried the Spurs through 3 decades and will carry the Spurs into the future. And they're in just absolutely spectacular position. This year obviously was derailed because he had his health incident, and then Victor Wembanyama went down with a blood clot. But going forward, my gosh, are they in good shape. They have all of their draft picks. They have 3 extra first-round picks. They have the last 2 rookies of the year, Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle. They are in great position with their salary cap sheet. And look, they've got 2 picks in this lottery coming up. They got 30% chance between their pick and the Hawks pick to jump into the top 4, where they might be able to draft another rookie of the year, whether it's Cooper Flagg or somebody else, or they could use those picks in trade, potentially to upgrade their team in the very short term. They have movable contracts. They have good developing young players elsewhere on their roster. I mean, I know he won 5 championships, but he did something even more special. He left it in a better place than where he took it over. This is no disastrous situation here. Not only that, he nurtured Mitch Johnson. Over the last few years, he gave Mitch Johnson more and more responsibility, so he was ready to take over, you know, whether he knew it was going to happen this fast or not. So the Spurs are in a wonderful position, and Greg Popovich is going to be there to continue to help, remaining on as team president.
Yeah, Greg Popovich is absolutely leaving the Spurs.
I'm talking it out. It's all well and great to talk about. You have to go do something about it. We have an opportunity to write our own story and how we bounce back.
For the second straight game, it's win or go home for the Houston Rockets. But with this series shifting back to the Bay, where Richard, you will be on the call, what do you have your eye on in this massive Game 6?
I'm looking at the first quarter. I'm looking at the first quarter. Obviously, these games have been tight. These games have been intense. But when you kind of look at it and you look at the Golden State Warriors, if they come out, that crowd is juiced. It's 30-17. That, to me, means it's going to be hard for the Houston Rockets. You don't want to be fighting behind on the road in an elimination game versus those veterans and this crowd. That's not what you want. You want to take the crowd out of it. And I'm not saying that Houston can't battle back, but in my opinion, Houston has to punch first. They have to make Golden State have to answer. That's the one advantage. Now, you can look at the players and the individuals, but Shanae, you know this, Brian, Perk, you all know. It's not necessarily about the talent, it's about your approach to the game. There's going to be a moment where Golden State has Steph and they're going to need to hit a big three, and most of the time he does. So if you're the Houston Rockets, you have to punch first. Don't ease into this game. Don't think you have time, because the longer this series goes on, I think the more it benefits the Rockets. When you start playing every other day and you're talking about a potential Game 7 turning right back around and having to play again, that benefits the Rockets. So the Rockets have to come out and try and punch first, and that's a lot easier said than done against Steph and Draymond and Steve Kerr and Jimmy Butler. That's a lot easier said than done.
What's been done, and they're doing it. The Rockets had needs until now one of these games, not one time. We know one thing about the Rockets, defensively, that culture travels. That tenacity travels. They're going to compete defensively. They have done that since Game 1. I'm looking at Alfred Sengun and Fred VanVleet. Both guys then had back-to-back great games, in my opinion, right? Who for the Warriors are going to shut their water off? Fred VanVleet is real comfortable. I'm talking about rubbing his feet together. Real comfortable in their crib right now. Sengun, what is Draymond Green going to do? I know the shooter percentages show us otherwise, but can you still guard and stay out of foul trouble? Hey, what's wrong?
Oh, that's interesting, because you're saying your eye is on Sengun, who has had big games, and VanVleet, who has had big games. But I think everyone is watching Jalen Green, because he actually spoke earlier today during shoot-around about his ups and downs, and he was pretty honest about it.
I don't think I played good at all, for real. I had one game at the career, which was a pretty good game. But overall, I feel like I ain't really been myself. But, I mean, that's okay, you know. First time experience, not going to use that as an excuse or anything, but just got to get back to being aggressive and, stop overthinking.
Well, first of all, I thought you was cutting me off for us to have a conversation up here, not to go to some Jalen Green tape. But, look, he's right.
Thank you.
He's right, Shanae. That was great. He's right. He do have to step up, along with Amon Thompson and along with Dylan Brooks. Somebody have to make shots. Somebody have to make shots outside of Fred VanVleet. Otherwise, the Golden State Warriors, they're going to walk out of there victorious.
Yeah, Wendy, what do you think is, or who do you think is the X factor in this one for the Rockets?
We just heard from him. Jalen Green is a high variance player. He's had a 38-point game in this series. He's had a 7-point game in this series. And look, maybe in an elimination game on the road, that's a tall order for a player in his first playoffs. But if you're looking for a way for the Rockets to elevate, this is the guy to do it. This has kind of defined his career so far. The contract that the Rockets gave him is a high variance contract. It's very high dollars, but for low years, because they don't know exactly what kind of player this guy's going to be night in and night out. This is a chance to establish himself as a guy who can be a difference maker. And look, you get Game 7 back at home court, everything changes. I think it was a calculated gamble by the Warriors to sort of punt on Game 5, planning to get it done tonight. You can short-circuit that, but you need something special to happen, and Jalen Green's a guy who can deliver a game like that.
Yeah, win college ball and set the NCAA record in scoring. The Fever's second preseason game coverage starts with WNBA Countdown at 3 Eastern here on ESPN. And in that spirit, the preseason kicks off in the W tonight with some of the queens of the game getting their seasons underway. #1 pick Paige Beckers makes her WNBA debut against the Aces and MVP Asia Wilson. The game will be played at Notre Dame as Arike Ogunbowale, Jewel Lloyd, and Jackie Young all get to play at their alma mater. And, of course, Angel Reese will head back to LSU, and the Sky will play the Brazilian national team. The Bayou Barbie won a national title during her time in Baton Rouge in 2023. Camila Cardoso will also get get to play her national team to kick off her season. Caitlin Clark gets her second season underway on Saturday against the Mystics and follows that up with a return game in Iowa on Sunday. Caitlin set the NCAA record scoring on that court, her crowning achievement. And the Storm tip off their preseason Sunday against the Sun. Seattle brought back my sister Nneka, Skylar Diggins, Gabby Williams entering the season. That also has one of the most intriguing prospects the WSD in Dominique Malongo to the mix. Now, as the season draws closer, we take a look at who has the best odds. But still, it's 10 days until the draft lottery, which we're so excited because this means it's about time we get to hang out with our draft insider, Jonathan Gavoni. And Jonathan, you've been with several prospects this week in Cali, but one guy impressed you. Who is it?
Shanae, getting a chance to spend time with so many different players around the pre-draft process is really a blessing. Derek Queen, just his personality, it's so important for you to be able to sell yourself to NBA teams. Say, why should you invest in me as a prospect, as a human being? And I got a chance to spend about 30 minutes with Derek Queen, and I was absolutely blown away by this guy's personality, his charisma, just the way, his understanding of who he is as a basketball player, what he needs to work on, how does he fit into the modern NBA. He talked about guys like Anthony Davis, like Carmelo Anthony, like Nikola Jokic, players that he studies, that he looks up to, that he tries to take bits and pieces away from their game. And he understands that he has work to do on his conditioning and all that, but I think he's ready to attack this pre-draft process and be a top 10 pick.
You're talking to the right person. We always love a good big over here. The NBA Draft Lottery is a little over a week away on ESPN Monday, May 12th. And before we go, we have some breaking news around the association.